Hey, welcome to Filler. I'm Joe.
And I'm Steve.
And this is the place where we talk about things that make us feel fulfilled as creatives and as people. Steven.
Joseph.
How are you? Oh, damn it. I shouldn't have done it for government. Shouldn't have done it.
I am doing really well because we have a very special guest today.
Yeah, what makes him so special? What makes him so special, Steve?
He is a multi-instrumentalist, poet, writer, all-around great friend, and the lead guitarist of our band, the LVP. Everybody give it up for Vince Camarista.
Hello.
Hey, Vince is here.
Hi,
Woo!
It's me.
How are you, V? V Camarista?
I'm feeling good.
V Camarista.
I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling good. Thank you for that lovely intro.
Oh, did I humble you too much?
Oh, always.
So aside from being awesome guitarist, awesome poet, awesome songwriter, you are also a social worker, yes?
I am. Yes, I am a clinical social worker in a outpatient mental health clinic in Yonkers.
Nice. Do you want to give everyone your social security number?
Oh, yeah. That and a credit card number as well. Yeah, and address.
Did you have a good day at work? Because I know that could be very taxing, emotionally and mentally and everything.
It was slow. It was slow today, so
that's good.
Good for you.
But it's gonna be hectic. It's gonna be hectic next week. So
why? How do you know it's gonna be hectic? Like
just like schedule wise, like I just have like clients and everything. I look forward to the week, like the next week or whatever, and just see like how my week's gonna be. I'm like, oh gosh.
I thought you were like anticipating like a crisis or something, and I was like, what do you know that we don't? But
no.
But also like you're not wrong anyway. There's probably gonna be some crisis next week.
There's always a crisis.
What
like,
are these
I think
patients' full names?
HIPAA, Steve. HIPAA.
So before we make Vince lose his job, we are going to give some context on how we all met, and then we are going to dive into Vince's fillers, potentially.
Fillers.
There might be multiple ones in this one. So, Steve, you want to go for it?
Yeah. So it all kind of started with me, and Vince was the first person to respond to my post looking for bandmates when I was starting up the LVP. I think it was a Facebook group, NYC Musicians Connect. I had put out a couple demos that Kyle and I had recorded together, and you were one of the first people to like jump on and be like, hey, this sounds really good. Let's jam. And you sent me your solo project, Easy Tigress, and it impressed me right away with like your sense of melody and like just how lush everything sounded. And I was like, that's a great element that I would love to have in the music I want to make. And ever since you've brought this kind of like whimsical melodic sensibility to our music, as well as just like the best vibes imaginable.
Cool.
Like the first time we met, we met in person and were hanging out after jamming together for a little bit. We went to go see your friend Paul, who was in the band Live Well, doing a solo show at Gold Sounds. And I'll never forget us just sitting at a bar together and realizing we both had a list of stupid song title ideas on our phone.
Just a note file of like of not even lyrics, just like titles.
And two of the ones that really stood out to me, one was definitely that day, and there was another like over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But two of my favorites were Terrace House Hoboken, which that got us talking about Terrace House right away. Right. Unlocked a new shared interest. And then my all-time favorite is, and this might not be exactly right, but lo-fi beats to suck and fuck to.
Yeah, those are it's like a litmus test. It's like if you know those references, or if you are into like my kind of humor and not like, whatever, then, we get along fine.
Have either of those become songs yet?
No. No. I mean, it's very rare. It's very rare that like it will come to fruition, but it's good to know that like I have a song title ready when I need it.
Gotcha.
And you know, maybe one day.
When you say that you have a song title ready when you need it, is that like, do you just go in your grab bag, your notes app of song titles when you're looking to name it, or is there a convention or process that you follow for naming your songs based on what you write them about?
So it's weird. Like I have like I don't know if I've talked about this before. I have like a kind of backwards way of writing music where I start with a title, and I would use the title as like a prompt and be like, okay, what would a song like Terrace House Hoboken sound like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I go from there. It's like, okay, is this going to be like a grungy song? Is it going to be a more mid-tempo song, or is it going to be, slow and that was like my writing process for many years. And it tends to kind of get the creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember vividly for Hooligans, I started with that title. Like I was like, what would an album like Hooligans sound like?
Mm-hmm.
And go from there. And then sometimes I change the title. It's not a final thing, but other times it's like, okay, you know what? I'm just in love with this title. I'm gonna keep it.
That's so interesting because so many people ask musicians, and I've gotten this question too, do you start with the music or the lyrics? But that's great that you start with the title.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think like something like Four Non-Blondes, spelled like the bread, could somehow generate a song as good as it is. It's like,
that's what it is. I mean, that's what the process is. Like I have like a stupid pun or a stupid phrase that I've heard, and then I work backwards and I'm like, okay, what is the song Four Non-Blondes sound like? And go from there. And in my process, lyrics are usually last, which is, it's common, but I think a lot of people's processes are different. So, but it's what worked for me.
It sounds like it's like vibe songwriting instead of anything. I want to say the words like intentional and deliberate, but you are being intentional and deliberate. So that's, you know what I mean? Like, but it's just, I don't know. It's interesting. Have you ever tried writing songs in the, I guess, reverse order for you? Have you ever started with lyrics? Have you ever started with music?
Yeah, there have been times where I start with like a phrase or a lyric and go from there. And then I would go into like my grab bag of titles and be like, this sounds like Terrace House Hoboken, or like this sounds like, another song title or whatever. But usually it's I start with the prompt. I start with the song title and go from there. And sometimes I give myself like other prompts, like, what would a Green Day song sound like if it was recorded by Steve Albini? Or what would be a I don't know. Like I would have like a weird prompt to kind of push the creative flow, I would say. And then luckily by the end of it, like I'll come up with something.
Cool.
Joe met Vince by also joining the LVP, but we've all become friends like as a group and on our own. Joe, do you want to talk about your friendship with Vince and what it was like meeting him?
I remember meeting all three of you when we went to that rehearsal space off Atlantic in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the place that it was. But I remember immediately vibing with Vince, which I think speaks to his songwriting sensibilities and the way that he does it, or the way that you do it, just because I think Vince and I share a similar humor.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I think you're like I think you appreciate absurd stuff.
Oh, I love absurd stuff. Like, yeah.
I know that I definitely veer into like dad joke territory, but I do it out of cringe. And you always acknowledge how cringe it is, which is what the goal is, not necessarily to be humorous. So I think that's how I recall meeting Vince, that I was like, of you, Steve, Kyle, and you, Vince, I was like, okay, like I can mess around with Vince. I can make a very esoteric niche reference, and Vince will be like, yeah, I saw that 5 years ago. That was a good one.
I mean, that's like I said before, sometimes I think when we first started hanging out, like we did a whole bunch of like Tim Robinson.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was like, we would quote Tim Robinson, and then like you would finish the quote and it'd be like, okay, yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And then, not to mention, we're all, I feel like, on equal levels, like nerdy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think, I don't know if you've mentioned this before, but like when we first started like talking, I saw a picture of you dressed as Cloud Strife at Comic-Con. And then
That's
I replied, I'm like, dude, are you Cloud?
Which is a fair question because the wig was terrible.
I got it.
It was a Super Saiyan Goku wig that I tried to like hairspray into the right shape, and it just did not work.
Oh, that's pretty clever, though. I appreciate that.
It was cheap. No, to speak to that, the Final Fantasy thing, I almost feel bad. I won't say the guy's name, but this is one of my favorite like early stories. So right before Joe joined, we rehearsed and we auditioned a guy on the bass who showed up with a bass with no strap and no cable, and sat in a chair, didn't play the tabs I had written out for the written songs, who had said, oh, you don't need all that. I'm just going to play the important stuff. And he barely knew what he was doing.
And we were like looking at each other and we're like, what the fuck? Like,
so when
this isn't.
So before we had auditioned him, we had said, okay, to signal to each other if we like this guy, you should play the victory fanfare from Final Fantasy on the guitar, just to say, we won, we got him. The da 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 da. But after a couple songs of him doing that, I just turned to you and I said, hey, Vince, what's the song that plays when you die in Final Fantasy?
And I was just like, wah, wah.
Yeah, and it's like, yep, message heard.
And he was so oblivious. He was so oblivious to it. So it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, he was a lovely guy.
Yeah,
personality
he was
wise,
very nice.
Yeah, pretty good.
We got ice cream after.
Yeah, but I think at the end of it, yeah, just wasn't right. And yeah, like didn't have like he didn't have a chord, didn't have any of his I don't know. It was a strange vibe. And then I remember vividly meeting Joe for the first time, and we were in that old like the first space that we were in. And I remember I was just running late, and I was like behind like a garbage truck or whatever. And I was like telling you guys, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm going to be like 15, 20 minutes late or whatever. And then like when I get there, I just like storm in, shake Joe's hand, like being like, oh man, I fucking hate traffic, or, I hate the commute or whatever, It's like, hey, what's up? My name's Vince. And then like I set up.
But that speaks to your commitment because you live the farthest out of any of us, and you make it to practice every single week, and you drive me home pretty much every time. And I love you for that.
I love you too, man. I love you too.
And we love you, Joe.
And we love you. And we love you too, Joe.
Oh, it's all good. You guys don't have to say that. It's really like, it's a low bar being a bassist. Like, just show up, have a strap, have
just
a chord,
have a cable,
play the root
just
notes.
have a cable, have like
play the notes,
yeah. Honestly, if you're in tune, that's like bonus. People don't even really listen to begin with.
Yeah.
Vince, you joined the LVP as lead guitarist.
Yeah.
But I listened to Graceland. Am I saying it right? Am I pronouncing the V's correctly?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I listened to Graceland, and I listened to that playlist that you sent us of the mixture of songs from your other two albums. And I would not place you as a lead guitarist first and foremost based on listening to those albums. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that in a way of like, that's not where I would put you first.
Right.
So what made you want to venture into a band in a lead guitar role?
Well, I mean, when I was starting Easy Tigress, I had like, it was more out of necessity because, you know, I was like, let me record all my stuff. Like I'll record my acoustic stuff, you know, on GarageBand. And that's how it started out. And eventually, once I started to learn how to use like MIDI and a DAW, like I was like, oh, okay, I could play drums, I could, you know, arrange, I could overdub, you know. And so those all came as like a natural, I guess, learning experience for me when it comes to making music. And yeah, at the end of it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what bass I want. Like, I know what I want for the drums and all that. And it got me to the point where I was very perfectionist and like, it has to sound this way or it has to be like this way. And I was the only person to take accountability, I guess. And as much as it was like a great experience, it was also like mentally taxing where I was like, at the end of recording my last album, Hooligans, I was just like mentally drained. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is great, but I want to like venture and like be a part of a band where we collaborate or, you know, I talk to like other people and be like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Or you could tell me to do this guitar riff or something, you know? Yeah. At the end, I was like feeling like, you know what? I do want to like collaborate with people. I want to make music with people and not just be a quote unquote bedroom pop artist or which was in vogue back, you know, I think during those times. And then this was also like during the pandemic or like a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic too. So I was like, you know what? I want to make music with other people, you know? So yeah, that was the catalyst for me reaching out to people to see if they wanted to form bands or make music. And yeah, that's how I met Steve.
And I'm so glad you did. Because, you know, I was kind of strict at first, being like, I'm the singer, I'm the songwriter, like I'm leading this. And then like over time, as we grew together, I learned to like trust all of you more and like have you guys take the lead on things.
I think it's only natural to kind of feel kind of defensive of your, you know, of your babies and all that.
I am a bit younger than you two. Like you two were the first to enter your 30s, and you were already in your 30s when we met. So yeah, I appreciated you hopping on and believing in my ideas and then making them way better. Because like when we did Suicide is Tax Evasion, like I didn't have a lead riff at all, and what's on the song is the first thing you thought of. And I was like, it's so simple and fits so perfectly. I can't believe I didn't think of it. But that's really the kind of thing you can only get from other people when the pieces just fit creatively.
Right.
And,
yeah.
So I just appreciate it.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, and like you were saying, there's a magic that comes out of being in a room with other people and trying to figure out something that you don't find from just, I mean, you can noodle on the keyboard, you can noodle on the guitar and eventually find something. But I think, you know, finding the riff for Suicide is Tax Evasion, that was like, it's like, where'd that come from? You know?
So I'm glad you brought up the thing about keys, because that's more what I heard on Graceland.
Yeah. Was
your keys. Like you definitely did a lot of acoustic guitar, but that felt more, what's the word? Like not perfunctory or serviceable, but like utilitarian. The acoustic guitar felt like this, you needed like some rhythmic foundation to the album.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas like the keys were the star of that album for me. Right. Did you start on piano when you were younger or was...
I did, yeah. So piano for me was like my first instrument. I started when I was like probably in kindergarten or first grade, but then I was... Yeah, but then I didn't continue with it. And after learning like the first few chords, I was just like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to. And like, I just felt like I'm okay. I don't need to go forward with this. And didn't continue with piano lessons, and then picked up guitar later on when I was like 13.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I have essential knowledge of like a keyboard. And for Graceland especially, I feel like that was one of the first albums I wrote primarily on piano.
Mm-hmm.
I remember recording that when I was actually still living in Melbourne, Victoria, and the place I was staying in had this really old rickety piano, and I didn't have an acoustic like at that point, so I would write songs on the piano and have the bass and have the melody and have the have the chords ready, and then when I did eventually get my acoustic, it sounded more like, okay, I'll have a riff here, I'll have a something to fill this space up. But for Graceland especially, it was very keyboard I guess centered.
What would you consider yourself now? If someone were to come up to you and ask you, as a musician, are you primarily a guitarist, primarily a pianist, something else?
I mean, I would probably just say like I'm a guitarist, keyboardist, but I'm not necessarily both. I mean, I'm not necessarily what do you call it? I'm not necessarily like a main keyboardist. I know the essential of it, but like at the end of the day, like I use it more for arrangement, or I use it more for coming up with ideas. And guitar is more, I would say, my main instrument, I would say.
What is it about the guitar that you think speaks to you more?
I think it's just something about it where, like, if you find like a really nice riff, or if you have like a really nice kind of chord progression, you could really build it. Mm-hmm. And for me, yeah, like I've just coming up with like things on acoustic guitar. It's always, I'll be riffing for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll be like humming, and then I'll be like, you know what, this is something, So it is a different process than if I was like playing on keys, or if I was playing like something else. But yeah, for guitar, it has something about it where I'm like, okay, let me play chord progression that I've heard like a million times before, but then like make it my own, and insert it into song or whatever, and see how I go.
Cool. Okay, so you sent us some songs that you wanted us to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
What on Graceland? Let's talk about that first. Your first album,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What on Graceland stands out to you as Vince core?
I would want to say Pleasant Heaven, because I remember coming up with that piano riff and everything, and I was like, oh, this is good. And like I had that feeling, I'm like, wait, does this sound like anything? And I actually got my roommate at the time to like come out and like hear me play it, and I'm like, does this sound like anything? Because I think with like a lot of musicians, they have that innate fear of ripping off somebody by mistake.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking like, what does this sound like? And she was like, I don't know. It sounds good. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can't say exactly or whatever, but
I thought it sounded like Coconut Records.
Oh, the Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah.
Is that I've never heard his solo stuff. So
there's I'll send you the song after. He's got a
okay,
famous one on there.
Yeah.
But I mean that in a complimentary way. Like a lot of
right.
Like you even have a song title El Post Twee.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Graceland and even some stuff that you sent later has twee elements on it.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't like. I typically think of twee with a negative connotation. Nothing you sent I found grating in the way that I find twee grating.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I called it post twee.
Yeah.
As like
that's got to be tongue in cheek.
Right. Like, because one of my main influences is Bell and Sebastian, and they're considered tweecore or whatever you want to call them. And I mean, I love them to death, but I get the negative connotation where it's like, oh, they're twee. It's like, I don't want to listen to that. It's like, there's a sort of connection that you you associate it with.
I think Twee, and I think Zoe Deschanel, and I think Zoe Deschanel, and I think Bad Death Cab for Cutie. So that's
Right.
my pipeline.
Yeah. Like I am also influenced by Ben Gibbard and Death Cab as well.
I could see that. There's a song later that we could talk about that I heard, and I was like, this is very Death Cab in a great way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Something I noticed, because this was the first time I'd heard Graceland. I didn't even know you had this out. I had heard the other two records on Spotify, but this one was on Bandcamp only. But I noticed that it's got a very like Elliott Smith kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So I just got to ask, were you okay?
Well, yes, I was. Yeah, at that time, I'm just like trying to think and put a picture to when I recorded Graceland. I was I was still in Australia. I was living in a share house. I was okay, but I was also kind of like, I need a creative outlet because I was writing songs before, and I considered Graceland and I consider all the other Easy Tigress albums as more like diary entries. And I think of where was I when I recorded that? And for Graceland, it was kind of like I'm doing grad school. I'm on the other side of the planet. I'm kind of dealing with a whole bunch of feelings of isolation, but then also new beginnings. And also the common things like heartbreak and depression. And I think at that time, music was really like my therapy. I know it sounds cliche, but it was really my outlet. And if I didn't have it, then like, I don't know where my headspace would be or would have been, you know? Yeah. Like, I was okay.
I have a question about the V's.
Oh, and the title?
Yeah. Why the V's?
I think at that point it was in vogue where like bands or album titles would have like letters that didn't correspond to the actual letter, like churches or, I mean, that was the example that came to mind.
Paris was another one, yeah.
Always.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, always. So I was kind of inspired by that. And then I also wanted to kind of reference Graceland, but not actually say it. If that was like and you know, at the end of it, I was like, you know what? Like, this is a album full of songs about where I am right now. And Melbourne to me was like, yeah, it was like, it holds a special place in my heart. And I kind of told myself like, okay, this is about like this time, or this is about like what I was feeling at this point. And it was kind of like world building for me, where I'm thinking like, okay, what are the, who are the characters? What was the setting like? And that's something I go back to a lot, where I'm like, what is the world of this album?
Why did you want to reference Graceland? Are you a big Elvis Presley person?
I'm not. And I kind of wanted to like reference it in a way where it's like, do you remember when, or how was I going to say? Because there was another Graceland album by Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was more inspired by that.
Gotcha.
But then also about like stories of how people go to Graceland and they say it was like, it's just a house.
Okay. I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
And that story kind of stuck with me where I'm like, oh, there's like this mythology to it. But when you really see it, it's just a house. It's just a place. It's not like, yeah, of course it has like the history, it has the context, but at the end of the day, it's really, you know, people are left disappointed in it.
That's very American football LP1 cover of you. And that's my segue for a question about Midwest emo. You use a lot of samples, be it from like movies or television on your songs. I always found that like both fascinating, irritating, curious in a lot of Midwest emo songs. And you definitely like dabble in Midwest emo here and there, but I don't think there's like any that's like any song that's Midwest emo on Graceland. Do you choose samples deliberately that go with songs thematically, or is it like, I just really like this movie, I like this reference, or is it like, I like the world of this movie, that's what I want the song to feel like? Like, how do samples play into your songwriting and song creation?
I mean, usually it's just to kind of fill up the time because, or fill up the space. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't have a verse for this. So I'm just going to, pick a quote from like something that I found funny, like, and then just fill up the space and see how it goes. And then sometimes it's like, oh, okay, this creates like an ambiance to it.
Okay.
And sometimes it might not exactly be like, it might not exactly be related to the song, or it might not be related to the lyrics, but for some reason it works because there's like a humor to it, or there's a sort of, I can't explain it. It's just like a little spice to it.
Yeah, I was going to say seasoning. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, seasoning. But like a lot of the times it's like, what does this need? And I don't have a verse. And let me just fill it up with a random YouTube quote or a YouTube clip or whatever, and see where I go from there,
What was the sample on Black Denim Jesus, which I can't
Black
remember
Denim
the full name of that song?
Kiss Me, I'm Organic.
Yes.
Is it Kiss Me?
Yeah,
I got it. Do you remember what it was? Or like, do you remember like,
it was,
do you
it was a
recall?
guy talking to a girl, and he's like talking about how he's considered killing himself, but then his blood tells him not to. I always listen to my blood, something like that.
Yeah. So that's John Cusack in a Woody Allen movie. And I'm trying to figure out which one it was. Yeah. So I didn't choose it for, the Woody Allen aspect of it, but like it kind of stuck in me because it was like such a crazy character that John Cusack was playing in that movie. He was basically just like a student or whatever, and he's frequenting whorehouses, and he's like, he was acting emo, so to speak. And at the end, he mentions Tigress, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good segue to put in for like the next song, or just a good tie-in. So, it'd be clips from random movies or random things that I found funny or interesting, and I would just place them in.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about your lyrics, just in general, because while I was going through Graceland, a lot of them stood out to me in really awesome ways. Okay. So there were two, or there's actually several that I really I loved. So on Pleasant Heaven, you sang "I'm a fool that you can call," which I think is awesome. Yeah. On Strange and Frightening Journey, but in the end you become a car, which love the title.
Well, that's actually one of Paul's songs. So,
yeah, I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a song that Paul Masbad wrote.
Oh, nice.
That I covered and he loves. So that's, but yeah.
Well, you killed the cover. Yeah. Like it sounded awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Steve, you had a question about it?
Yeah, I was going to ask what the story was there, because I guess that could be a segue if you want to talk a little bit about Paul and your long friendship and how you've built each other up as musicians.
Yeah. So Paul and I, we've known each other, I think, since freshman year of college. And he was one of those, he was friends with my other friend, and he was one of those skateboarder kids that like we would like hang out. And it was only like later on that we knew that we were into the same music. So I think around the end of college, I kind of told him like, dude, you should be playing music. You should be writing your own songs, because you like good bands. You seem like a cool guy with like a lot of, a lot of things you want to like write about. Because he always said he wanted to do something creative, and I'm like, yeah, start writing music. And he was like, and he would say, I don't have any talent, or like I've never written lyrics before. And I'm like, yeah, no one like, don't worry about that. Just start writing. And throughout the years, he started writing stuff on his own for his own solo acoustic projects. and that culminated in him forming Live Well, which is his pop punk band. And I mean, like, I've been surprised because like he's been an influence on me sometimes, especially with like his lyrics, because he writes very, how can I explain it? Like journal-esque lyrics, or like, and I'm like, I want to strive to be that, you know, and then vice versa. He's like, your lyrics or your music inspires me. And it's been that synergistic relationship for several years.
That's so beautiful, and I love that. And especially because I could see how he's inspired you, but also been inspired by you, because something that always stood out to me about your music is that you, like, I believe it. Like when you're singing these like poetic and kind of revelatory lyrics, there's something about the way you deliver them and the way the music makes it palatable, I guess is kind of the right word, because it could be really heavy, it could be really self-serious, but then you look and see that the song has a stupid name, and it's
it kind of
it's
puts
catchy.
that distance a little bit.
And I think that's so cool and clever, and it inspires me too, because I like funny song titles, but I take myself way too seriously, and you've always had this amazing sense of like being able to reveal whatever you want with that barrier there of some humor and to make it a little more accessible.
Right. Yeah. Like and that's the thing. Like I don't take myself too seriously, but like I take the music seriously. Does that make sense? So I'll be like, I'm going to name this like a stupid song title, and then I'm going to, what is it going to be? What is it going to explore? What's it going to be about? And I think in that process of writing something, like some things will come out, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that is a great line. You know, like I'll be, you know, like, for Pleasant Heaven, like a lot of those lines deal with like rejection or deal with just heartbreak. And I mean, it is a sincere song, but there is like a element of like tongue-in-cheekness to it, where it's still kind of lighthearted, and you know, at the end of the day, it's still a, you know, I feel I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that song, even though like it was recorded rickety on a on GarageBand, on like a, what do you call it? I'm recalling I didn't have a mic at that point, so the only mic I had was my Skull Candy like headphones like attachment or whatever, and that was like I didn't have like a blue mic at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I ended up recording straight onto GarageBand using that mic, and there's that like eerie quality of it where you hear the creaks, you hear when the mic brushes on like my shirt, and because it's funny because I was listening back to it, and it's been a while, but I was well removed from it where I was able to kind of listen to it objectively, and I was like, holy shit, like, I mean, this is great, even though it sounds like, you know, it wasn't mixed properly, or I didn't like EQ it or whatever. But yeah, no, like I still appreciate it because it was like, this is like a document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does work to what you were saying about like it building out the world. You know, it's like it feels like a real place, especially with that album cover. It's like, I take it that was a bar somewhere in Melbourne.
Yeah, that was just like, I forgot where exactly, but I liked the sort of spooky, I don't know, gothicness of it, and it was like out of focus as well. So, yeah. Like, I always look back to that, and I'm like, that's not an album. That's like a diary for me. You know.
Was there anything else you want to talk about Graceland?
Not so much. I mean, I think it was the jumping off point for me to prove to myself that, oh, okay, this is really like this is pretty good. This is a good collection of songs. Let me see what I can, you know, add to it, or how far I can go with it. And originally I was going to be writing and performing and playing in Melbourne, and those plans changed, but I stuck with the name, and I thought like, okay, this is a good project to have because it's a good way of telling stories. This is my way of like creating worlds or creating short stories, but through like through musical form and all that.
So that brings us to a playlist that you sent us. That's made up of some songs from Who Can Recall Past Lives and Hooligans.
Yeah.
Your other two albums, right? So I like that you can see a clear progression of your music from bedroom pop artist to still bedroom pop artist.
Right.
But he knows how to use a DAW now.
Yeah. Right.
Like, and I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean like that in a way of like you're honing your craft, which is really, really cool to see.
Right.
So Who Can Recall Past Lives, that half of the playlist you sent, I saw the direct continuation from Graceland, which is really, really cool. It just sounded more lush. I was really, really trying not to think of your stuff in any other context but its own, but I was getting such Bruce Springsteen vibes.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
the songs are really long.
Yeah, both albums are really long. The songs are really long, and I'm not saying this in bad ways, but it's also like
right.
I'm seeing how like there is a sound that is definitively Bruce that he hones over time, and there is a sound that is definitively Vince that you were honing over time. So it was very cool to see the evolution. And this is where I got to that Death Cab song that I really, really loved. It was From Lost to the River.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was 100% a Death Cab song. And I was like, oh, wow, he's like starting to venture into these genres, like dipping his toes in.
Right, yeah.
Even though on Graceland, you were like, I'm a bedroom pop guy. This is bedroom pop music, whatever, like semi-post-twee, like you called it.
Right.
But then Who Can Recall Past Lives, you're like, actually, I can do a lot of different things, kind of with the same or similar instrumentation. So what was your goal for that album?
I think it was really just to continue what I started with Graceland, where like I was recognizing, oh, okay, I'm writing these really cool, intricate melodies, and now I know how to use GarageBand better, or I can, and like I can like edit it better. I know how to EQ it a little bit differently, and I know how to use like MIDI, because that and Hooligans, those are MIDI drums that I've just been like that I'm tapping on, like I'm tapping on the pad and everything, and it was really just like what can I do next? So by pushing myself and being like, okay, I don't want to write like another album full of acoustic songs, or just Elliott Smith-esque like acoustic songs. So like what can I do next, or what can I do with this arrangement? And I think for Easy Tigress in general, someone like Brian Wilson, R.I.P., has been a big influence on me, the way he layers melodies and harmonies. And I think that was the same goal for me when it came to Who Can Recall Past Lives. Like, okay, let me see if I can replicate that sound. How can I replicate that lushness, and what world am I creating with this album? So I definitely am able to like see the progression from Graceland to the next album and think like, oh, okay, this is good. This is like a level up. I'm not just recording on a Skull Candy like headphone microphone anymore. Like I actually can do it on a USB mic now.
It's funny. It's like you made your Nebraska first.
Yeah.
Yes.
To put it in Bruce terms. But that's interesting. I think this is going to sound meaner than I mean it to, but I feel like Who Can Recall Past Lives is kind of like a Growing Pains record. I think between the stark and honest simplicity of Graceland to fully fleshed out, in my opinion, definitive Easy Tigress album being Hooligans. Well,
Agreed.
biased
Yeah.
because it's the first thing that I heard, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I knew you were proud of it because it had like just come out when we had met, and
Mm-hmm.
it hooked me right away. I still listen to it because I genuinely love it,
Me too.
Yeah.
and I think the performances got better. I think like the musicianship was tighter on
Yeah.
Hooligans. Do you get critical when you look back at like your performance or production choices or anything, or knowing now what you could have done then, or are you just cool with being like, okay, I got it out, I grew from it, and now you can see how much better I've gotten?
I think seeing the natural progression was like, for me, that was what was surprising, but also like I was expecting to like level up with each album and be like, okay, yeah, the first album, it's not perfect, but I love it because it was me at a vulnerable time, or it was me just trying to get songs like out there. And for me, I was critical, but I wasn't at that point thinking it had to be like perfect. And then with each other album, that perfectionism grew, and I felt more confident. Like I felt like, okay, maybe I can do another take of this and at least see what I can do. And then definitely by Hooligans, I was like, it has to be fucking like perfect, or it has to sound great, or I found myself re-recording songs often because I was just like, you know what, there's too much here. I need to start from scratch and see where I can go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So there definitely is that progression that can be seen with the albums, but at the same time, I felt early on, I was like, I just want to release stuff, and now it's like, oh, now I know what I want.
Nice.
And right, and with like the years, I've been able to look objectively at those albums and be like, oh, that's pretty good, or like I like this. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I just felt by Hooligans, I knew what Easy Tigress was. I knew what I wanted to sound like, or I knew what I wanted to be musically.
How would you describe the sound you achieved on Hooligans? Like, does that seem like, is that basically what was always in your head? And does it sound to you, like in your soul,
I would think so. I mean, I was always thinking in the beginning I would just write acoustic music, and because I was really big into Elliott Smith and those singers and Bright Eyes and those singer-songwriter types, and I thought like, okay, this is good. Like I want to continue with this. And then by the time I got to Hooligans, I was just like, I can't do the same thing over and over again. And especially with Who Can Recall Past Lives, it could have been just easy that I just continued writing acoustic music. And for Hooligans, I made that conscious effort of, let me write this electrically and see how I go and go from there. And yeah, the progression, I think, is evident.
To actually build off of what Steve was asking you about how you like arrived to it and whatnot, I am in full agreement with him. When I think of Easy Tigress, this is what I think of is Hooligans.
Yeah.
Even though you still jump around in genre all over the record, which I think is super cool. So like Be Your Own Imposter Syndrome is just like a fun like pop rock indie rock song,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come back to Four Non-Blondes because I want to talk about that one last. The World Is My Vampire is like pristine dream pop.
Yes.
Like it just like, what dream pop is, and you make the best dream pop song, and then you're like, all right, on to the next one.
Right.
Fire at Vocal Creek is indie pop.
Yeah.
Right. I came up with a song title that you're welcome to have.
Okay.
It's called.
Yeah.
It's when I was listening to this song specifically.
Right.
Twee without the cringe, cut from the team. That's all you, Vince.
That would be an easy Tigress song.
You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you did Sleeping Underwater, which again, this is a complimentary thing. That's a Coldplay song. Like that is like
What era Coldplay?
That's what I was gonna say. That is a Coldplay X and Y meets Viva La Vida era between those.
That's the sweet spot. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it okay? I'm not. I'll be
so.
honest. I have to listen to those albums. I'm not too versed in later Coldplay.
Yeah. No, I really think that you can go up to.
Yeah.
You could have gone up to Chris Martin and been like, "Hey, I wrote a song for you guys," and he would have belted that right next to "Fix You" in a concert. Like it's really really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I mean that is a dream that like I would eventually write for other artists and it'll have that easy Tigress sort of spice to it or whatever. But I mean, yeah, I never thought of Chris Martin as someone I would be writing music for, but that would be I'd like
It's
it.
better than what he's writing. So,
Chris Martin, I just want to, if you're listening out there, which I know you are, I really like Coldplay. You should have stopped at X and Y, but I really like you guys.
I can forgive Viva La Vida, but I don't know. It's too U2-ish after a while, and then after it's just really bad. But
it's just sad.
That's just me.
So I wanted to talk about Four Non-Blondes because that, like, aside from the super fun title that we were talking about before, granted, when I think of Easy Tigress, I think of Be Your Own Imposter Syndrome, and that might just be because it comes first in the sequencing for me. But when I think of the sound of Hooligans, I think of Four Non-Blondes as the pinnacle of Easy Tigress on that album.
Well, it's funny that you say that because Four Non-Blondes was like the first song that I wrote for that album.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge for myself where I told myself, I want to write a poppy song.
Okay.
And see how far I would go. And it's a very simple chord progression, but at the same time, by the end of it, I was like, this is like nothing I've written before. But I'm interested to see where it would take me. So that was the jumping off point for Hooligans. And I think at the end of it, I was like, okay, I want to write more songs like that. I want to write like kind of power poppy songs. And Be Your Own Imposter Syndrome kind of came from that, where I'm like, let me have a cool chord progression. And I think the title stuck out with me because it was something that I wrote down before. And I'm like, I have this feeling of like when people say I have imposter syndrome, like who are you comparing yourself to? You know, like, like who is this person that's almighty and all great and does nothing wrong? And why are you comparing yourself to that person? You know? And I mean, when people say that, it's like, yeah, that's fine. Like I get it. But at the end of the day, I want to ask, like, you know, who are you comparing yourself for? And that's where the title really came out of. You know, I was like I could be my own imposter syndrome. like I'll be the person that like I look up to, you know, because at the end of the day, like everybody sucks. Like everybody is like everybody is insecure. Everybody is damaged, you know, and people who present as successful or whatever, they have their own insecurities and demons, and it's like, are those people you really want to look up to, really?
That's another Easy Tigress song title. At the end of the day, everybody sucks.
Yeah.
Where do you go from that sound? From that power pop
I was going to ask
sound?
that.
Yeah, I mean, no, because I mean, like, you nailed
what's
it.
next?
Yeah, you nail it on
What's
Hooligans. Like, you are writing poetry all the time. You have a ton of songs. Like, you can jump from genre to genre. Like, what do you want to do next?
And that's the thing. That's where like I feel like what can I write for what can I write next for what would the next Easy Tigress album sound like and at the moment it's I've had maybe one or two songs that I've released just to kind of show where I've been going and all that, but at the end of the day, like it's still kind of up in the air. You know, I do feel like I am influenced by the LVP, and there's like this fear of mine where I'm like thinking like, oh, does this riff or does this song, is this like an LVP song or is this an Easy Tigress song? You know, or is this like a riff that like I'm like, oh, this would go well in a LVP song, and yeah, at the moment I'm just kind of trying to figure out what would be the next logical step for me. But at the end of the day, it's like if I've danced around like maybe writing another acoustic album, you know, Nebraska style, you know, and maybe that will get the creative juices going, you know.
Bruce thought so 3 times. Why can't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that like the act of just like sitting down and recording on my iPhone 3 or 5, you know, like a whole album worth of songs, it's daunting because it's like I do put this pressure on me of like, what will this sound like next, or is this a good song? Because I have songs that like I've shelved because I'm just like it's just not ready yet, or like I'm not happy with it, or like I just feel I'm not invested in it, or it needs work. But I think it just really comes down to when will I want to release music again?
So I've asked you this before, but this was like about 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
When we first started, you know, I listened to your stuff and we played together, and I was like, this guy's so good and has such a signature voice and style of his own. And was like, and I asked you, are you sure you never wanted to just play Easy Tigress live, like form a band for that? Like, because I wanted to like be fair and be like, if that's what you want to do, like you should do that. Because before I like kind of take up your time by having you take a chance on my stuff.
Right.
And at the time I remember you saying like, no, I don't need that. And this is what excites me now. And I'm excited to do this and build it. How do you feel now?
I'm at that point where I feel like my role in the LVP, I love that role. Like I love being the lead guitarist. I love figuring out like cool riffs and cool stuff to like add to songs. And I always turn back to Easy Tigress and tell myself like, no, one day this might go somewhere, or maybe I will work on it and give myself some time to see if I could actually practice with people and see if they want to play this live, you know. And it's I've told myself many times that I like it might happen at some point, but you know, I just procrastinate. You know, or I'm just not in the headspace for it at the moment. So it's really just like something that I look back on and just tell myself like, okay, you know, maybe one day. But for now, like the songs are there, and I'll have that to look back on. You know.
Well, if I want to put it on the record that if I ever get completely sick of the sound of my own voice and don't want to sing and write songs anymore, I would love to join Easy Tigress.
Or we could do like what's it called?
A split.
Like a split, yeah. Just to see. I have talked about that with Joe and him releasing some after school special songs, and then we released like a split EP.
I would love
in between.
That'd be so cool.
And that's always on the table. I'm just putting it out there.
No, I'm the one who needs the ball's in my court on that one. I gotta make more songs that I could send to you so that I can light the fire for you to be like, oh, now I gotta finish it because Joe put me in the corner. Like, you know?
Yeah. And and that's the thing. Like I might feel a specific way now, but then who knows? Like maybe next week or in a month or whatever, I'll be like, you know what? I wanna just write some more, but not take away energy from the LVP, and find that balance between the two where I'm like, you know what? I'm happy doing both. I'm okay like writing for both bands and see where that goes.
Beautiful.
So aside from being a songwriter and a poet and a therapist,
a multi-hyphenate.
Well, you are a multi-hyphenate because aren't you also like a bard, rogue,
I am
extraordinaire type thing?
I sure am.
You sure are. So you're into tabletop RPGs as well, right?
Yes, that's right.
Have you always been a tabletop RPG guy?
No, this has actually been a very recent thing for me where I was always D&D curious, but or I was always like tabletop RPG curious, but I didn't know like where to start. I didn't know like what to do, and it was quite.
Wait, I'm sorry to derail this, but can an Easy Tigress song please be called LGBTQ RPG?
That's a good one. Yeah, it should be.
I'll write it down.
I'll write it on a mandolin. You're set.
Yeah. And a little bit of an aside, I kind of like thought like, oh, maybe I could start bardcore and see if that ever is a thing. But
that's a thing. There's a thing everywhere.
It might be an Easy Tigress EP. I don't know. We'll see. But yes, yeah. It's been fairly recent for me getting into tabletop RPGs, and one that I'm currently in right now that I'll discuss briefly is Blades in the Dark, which is essentially if you like playing a rogue in D&D or any of those tabletop RPGs, then you're a part of you're a scoundrel, a part of a group that does heist in this RPG, and it exists in this world where, how can I explain it? It's kind of Victorian, but you're separated from the rest of the world because there's ghosts kind of isolating you. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like it has like elements of steampunk or elements of say like Peaky Blinders with that sort of vibe. And
is it kind of like Bloodborne, but not that dark and scary?
Well, it's funny that you say Bloodborne because it does have that vibe, but not that action, I guess, that kind of action orientedness to it. So essentially you can be part of a crew, and our crew is decided to be a bunch of saboteurs because we felt like we didn't want to actually kill people in our campaign. So we were like, let's just fuck shit up, let's just create chaos and and spy and do things. And my character is a leech. So in Blades in the Dark, you essentially choose like an archetype. Mm-hmm. So you can be a hound, which is like a muscle, or you can be someone who communes with ghost. And my person is like a tinkerer, where they can create concoctions and use it to blow something up, or I have like this powder that like blinds people or whatever. So it's a good sort of way to sneak away or do spycraft or whatever. But like that's a tabletop RPG that I'm in the middle of right now. And it's like if you like Ocean's 11, if you like doing heist, then this is a good starting place. And one mechanic that's really cool in this game is a flashback mechanic. So when you do a heist and you encounter a problem, you have the choice to flash back to an earlier scene to explain something.
Ooh.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense or like if that interests you in any way. But
like you rewind to that time, or you just get like a flashback to learn something.
Yeah. So you rewind to a previous time prior to the heist. So for example, our group, we encountered essentially the big boss at the beginning, like accidentally, and And instead of like, having a whole campaign of like, reaching up to the boss, it's like, nope, he's here now. So I did a flashback mechanic where I put smoke bombs in the street so we could have just snuck away. And yeah, so instead of like having to fight the big boss or whatever, I'd say like, I'm going to do a flashback. We go back, from the day prior. I put, a distraction or smoke bombs or whatever. And we end up sneaking away, and it only costs like stress in the game.
Who do you play these games with?
I'm playing with a group of people who are related to the poetry group. I play with them, and I play with my partner Celeste as well. And it's quite funny how like poetry and tabletop RPGs kind of overlap sometimes, where it's just like, okay, we have similar interest in D&D or something else. So let's find a time to play.
I was actually going to ask about that because I noticed a crossover between Blades in the Dark and the way that you work as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. After watching that video, the one about Blades in the Dark from Dicebreaker, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He talked about how at the beginning the group makes a plan, and the whole point of Blades in the Dark is the plan goes out the window, and it's how does the group manage after the plan goes out the window, right? So I thought that was fun because I think that's kind of like how you write songs, in that you don't have a plan. Like or at least it didn't sound like you did. Like you said, you start with the song title and then you build it out from there. So you're working backwards, which
right.
I thought was a cool crossover between your two selves. Is there any other connection between Vince the Leech and Vince Easy Tigress?
I actually haven't made that connection, so it's actually interesting that like you pointed that out, and I'm like thinking back, I'm like, yeah, that does make sense. Like when I I tend to not plan, but like go by vibes and then see what comes out of it. And essentially when I play Blades in the Dark, I don't know what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's on me and my the rest of my team to figure out like, oh, how do we get out of this one, or what's something that's kind of cliche. So let's like break the what's expected, because really like all tabletop RPGs, it's more collaborative storytelling. So we work with those tropes, and we work with those things that we see on TV, and we tell ourselves like, would it be funny if we do it this way? And if it works, like I think one example was we're in alliance with another gang, and they provide us with equipment or whatever. And one of the things they gave us was like this boat with a hole in it. And and we're like thinking like, oh, instead of like spending time to repair it or whatever, why don't I concoct something to make it levitate over the water? And I tossed it to the DM, and he was like, yeah, that tracks. Like that works.
That's awesome.
So right. So I mean, and that's the thing, like a lot of people ask like, what's the appeal of tabletop RPGs? And for me, it's really that freedom to do things like that. Like in Final Fantasy, you have only so much you can do, but you can't have your enemies unionizing. Like you can't make Sephiroth go into a therapy session or whatever, but in D&D, it's like, oh, these two people are fighting us, but maybe I can persuade them to kind of ask why. Why are they fighting? Like, who are they fighting for? Are they getting paid? Do they have benefits? And
they don't even have dental.
Can they? Yeah, right. So it's like that's like the appeal of tabletop RPGs, where like if it makes sense, then why not? Yeah, I mean, like that's what's appealed to me. That like there's that freedom to kind of go those places, and for someone who's into storytelling or screenwriting, like I would be like, join a campaign. Have that as like a jumping off point for you for any sort of creative thing. Like I'm reading Mistborn right now, and I'm like, this is Blaze in the Dark.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
So yeah, this is basically this is basically a campaign. For me, I even though it's been a recent interest of mine, I'm telling myself like I'm all in now.
Have you ever been the DM of a campaign?
I'm DMing a game called Monster of the Week, which is essentially you play as monster hunters, and each campaign is basically like, oh, okay, can we capture the monster? Can we, can we solve the mystery? So I DM'd that. I've been DMing that for like maybe 2 or 3 months. We're on like a hiatus right now, but that's something that I'm currently doing, and I love it. I like creating a world to kind of play in and all that, and also like calling out players or giving them the obstacles and not expecting it or whatever is part of the intrigue.
Cool. I actually think you're mentioning participating in a campaign is a great place for storytelling and screenwriting. I'd say even songwriting to some extent.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll break our format of filler in the future.
What?
I don't know. I'm just saying. Like maybe we'll do something like that. Yeah. Can't wait to edit that mumble. Is there anything else that you want to bring up, Vince, before we close out? Anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, we have our upcoming single.
Thank you.
Coming out. So, which my partner said is probably the most easy Tigress sounding song.
Oh,
in her opinion,
I agree.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree too. At first, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I could hear it, and then I'm like, yeah, my DNA is on, or the easy Tigress thread is in that song.
That's probably because you turned it into
an easy Tigress
what it
song.
became. Well, kind of. I mean, so when I presented it to the band at first, Kyle was still in the band, and I was playing it with, I think you missed a practice, and it was just me, Joe, and Kyle.
Right.
And
yeah,
we're trying it out, and I wrote it acoustic, and it was like, it was kind of sleepy. It was kind of too singer-songwritery, and like we hadn't found the hook yet to make it into us. And Kyle had just kind of been messing around on a drum beat that he found and liked. And you started playing a riff that you liked, that you had.
Yeah.
And fit that together. And then we just restructured the song around that.
Right.
And I've loved this new way of songwriting that we've built together. And now with the recorded version, you do like a 3-part harmony by yourself on the first chorus. And
I do, yeah.
It's so cool because you add a vocal layer on every line,
right.
And it's so cool. So I could definitely see the Easy Tigress there.
Yeah, that's definitely an Easy Tigress thing that I do, where where I start with the harmony and all that. But it was very interesting because for that song, like I remember we were like sending video of the progression of it, and I'm like, oh, I like this. Let me see what I could come up with. And that riff again, like Suicide is Tax Evasion, like that was like one of the first riffs that I wrote, and I'm like, this is like an interesting kind of angular riff that I'm writing. And then with the chord progression, it really made sense. And I remember slowly, like Kyle added his drum beat, and it was slowly coming together. And at the end of it, I was just like, holy shit, this is like it's one of my favorite LVP songs, I would say.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm psyched.
We named our yet to be announced upcoming EP, sophomore EP, after one of the lines in the song. And
Right.
the song itself, since we haven't said, is called Car Speaker Test, and you should go pre-save it at the LVP Band on Instagram. Go to our link in bio.
Yeah. Good plug. Great plug.
Well, Vince, thank you for coming on. Thank you for.
Thank you guys.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor of Spindrift?
Oof. I mean, the one I always like gravitate towards is the raspberry. You know?
Wow.
Is it the raspberry?
Wow.
Raspberry lime, yeah.
Yeah, raspberry lime. Because like I tried the other ones, you know, it's okay. But like I always go back to the raspberry lime, and I'm like, this isn't. There was another one I tried before, and it was at I forgot where it was, but yeah, raspberry lime. It's like it's a staple, I would say.
You hear that, Spindrift? Most of your stuff is just okay.
It's just okay. I don't even remember your names.
Can't believe we're ending this episode on this one.
What do you mean? How many have we already done like that?
Thanks for listening to this week's filler. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and explorations of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz. Follow Filler on Blue Sky and email us at fillerpod@gmail.com. See you next time.